Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of History Buff 41. In this episode, we're taking a look at American canteens. What you see here is a series of U.S. canteens used by the Army. We see one Marine Corps, and we see an airborne cover. And then we'll also go through and look at discuss, I should say, a couple of things to watch for when collecting. So, as you can see, they pretty well all look the same. You've got some sort of a black cap sticking out of some sort of a green or khaki cover with a lift the dot snap. And if we grab one of these, take a little closer look, you can see right here it says US. And if we flip it over somewhere, right there it is, it says Colette Manufacturing Company, 1943. Now, sometimes you'll see them stamped lower down here. Sometimes you see it stamped lower down here. Sometimes you'll see it across here. And if you look at some World War I ones or even some World War II ones, you will see it snapped inside of one of these flaps. Now, if we pull this canteen out of the cover, we see the actual canteen, about a quart or so. And then we see this cup, and it has a date and a manufacturer right here. It says U.S. Edward Katzinger Company, 1943. And you can pull the canteen out. And a lot of times they're marked in one of two places. They'll be marked here on the back. It says U.S. AGM CO, 1945. Other times, you can look here on the bottom, and the manufacturer will be dated there. Going back to the cup for a second, this is what it looks like on the inside. And kind of what the idea was is you would pour, I don't know, some soup in there. Use a ladle soup out of a large mess tin, or use it to fold this here out and use, I don't know, maybe your bayonet or something to hold it over a fire. And you had a little bit of a thing here for making coffee, or like I say, heating up some food or some water for whatever reason. And we'll fold that back around, and it slides back into here. And if you look in here, you can see there's kind of some, I don't know, some scrap wool, that sort of thing inside of there for insulation. And one of the things that they were told to keep water cool was to wet the outside of this, and that the evaporation would keep it cool. But that wasn't always successful. And then here we have our canteen. These are usually aluminum. They also made some out of stainless steel, because aluminum was used extensively in aircraft production. So there was a limited supply of that. Stainless steel was not rationed. And how you can tell is you can take a magnet and see if it will stick to the body of the canteen. And if we take this off and we look inside the cap, okay, you see that's bare plastic. Originally, there would have been a little cork plug in there to seal this over and keep it from leaking. It's pretty common to see where those have fallen out. If you do find a cork seal inside of there, that's definitely something to grab. So you'll see that. And so now we're going to discuss a few things to keep an eye out for. Oops, doggone it. So we'll close this back up again. So one of the things is oddities. Everybody thinks they look something like this. But this cover here was one of the ones used by the Marines, the United States Marine Corps, in World War II. And I saw a manufacturer on here earlier, but at the moment I don't. And this is what they call a dog ear flap. So it holds it in a little tighter. You open them up like so, and then you pull your canteen out. And as you can see, like here on the back, like the last one, AGMCO 1943 and US stamped. And then down inside of there is a cup. So that's one thing to look for, is something that's unique like that, like with these US dog ear flaps, or USMC dog ear flaps, I should say. And another thing that the Marines used, and I don't have them right now, have one, but as a canteen that was made of black enamel. So if you find one of those, that's definitely something to latch on to. This one here is, again, what you would expect out of a canteen. You open it up, you pull it out. You know, you see a little bit of a seam here. And actually, this is kind of interesting. Different maker. So here's the mark here. It says US GP&F CO 1943. So with this one, we got it on the bottom. With the other two, they were on the back here. So this one here has a little different construction. You see the seam is here. The first one we looked at, you know, you had a weld around here. And if we open it up, yeah, it doesn't sound like there's... Oh, there is a cork cap in there. So this is what it would have originally looked like. There'd have been a cork cap, plug, seal, whatever you want to say, in there to help seal this off. But what makes this really special is actually this carrier. So if we flip it over here, and you can see, and it's really faded, but there's a manufacturer and a date there. But you see this reinforced webbing across here. That means that this was, originally it had been called a cavalry canteen, and had been reinforced to take the jostling of riding a horse and a horse trotting or galloping. You see this extension too, that would make it hang down a little bit further, give a person a little more room on their belt. Airborne paratroopers used a lot of cavalry stuff in World War II, because it was built to take more jostling than regular infantry stuff was, and they needed that for when they jumped out of the plane and the chute opened to take the impact. And as you can see, this is some pretty strong, pretty stiff material in that. So the other thing I'm going to caution you on is when you're looking at buying one, always make sure to open it up and see what's inside. So here we have, you know, a typical case, a typical carrier for a canteen. It's stamped US. That looks legit. We slip over here. There's some sort of a unit number or something. We see the remnants of a manufacturer's mark here. We got our M1910 hanger on it. And then we open it up. And we look at the canteen. Okay, yeah, it's kind of beat up. This weld along here is really, really sloppy, and it feels a lot lighter than those other canteens were. And we've got a broken chain here, and we take the lid off. Okay, no cork in there, but that's not the end of the world. Then we start looking for a manufacturer's mark. No maker's mark here on the front. Nothing on what's supposed to be the back. Nothing on what's supposed to be the bottom. But if you look real closely right here, it says Taiwan on it. This is not a war production canteen. This is something that was made in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and even into the 90s, and was marketed to campers and hikers and hunters and outdoorsmen and whatever. They use a lot of the same design as the military ones, but they just weren't built to the same specifications. I was actually bought a canteen and cover online one time, and it was supposed to have been a World War II canteen. I get it home, or I get it in the mail, I should say, and open the package up, and I'm looking at it, and it doesn't look right. And the back here, under here, says Made in Japan. And I'm looking at the cover, and there's a tag on it right here, a small white tag sewn in, and it says in red, Made in Japan. Well, newsflash, in World War II, the United States and Japan were not friends, and Japan was not making canteens for the U.S. military. They were making bullets for them. They were making bullets for the U.S. military, and the military was on the receiving end. The other thing to look for is here's another canteen and another cover. And if we look at this cover looks a lot different. So yeah, it's got the 1910 hanger, but if we compare it to one, oops, let's not use that one. If we compare it to one of these others, this one's a lot heavier built. It's sewn in a lot different. If we look at the cloth, the thread real close, this is a real heavy, coarse thread that can take a lot of abuse. This is like almost like nylon. There's no manufacturer's mark. It doesn't say US on it anywhere. The snaps, there were some snaps like this used in World War II very early on, I believe, by the Marines. But these really, they're not the lift the dot stamps, or I'm sorry, snaps, and they don't really, it just isn't passing the sniff test. So what this is actually a cover for the canteens that were marketed, and there was a M1936 looking pistol belt that would have went to them or with them, but that was marketed for your outdoorsmen, outdoors people. And so if we open this up and we look inside, we see a plastic canteen. Okay, so think back, all of our canteens have been aluminum, or we talked about the enamel ones, or stainless steel. And so this one here is probably a kid's toy. But because we've done research and we've done some studying and we've looked at, read blogs and whatever else, we've watched History Buff 41 now, we know that during World War II, the United States experimented with alternative materials. And, one of those was the enamel covered canteens. There were problems there with the enamel ones. The biggest issue was they would get a dent in them, the enamel would crack and break off, and then the troops would drink it, and it was about like drinking glass. So that wasn't going to work. But they made also, experimentally, plastic canteens. And so if we look at the bottom here, it is stamped U.S. We have a maker's mark here, General Industries, and then we have the year here, 1942. And this white that's on here, that's actually a little bit of decay on the canteen. And we open this up. Whoops. And until a second ago, it had a cork plug in it. Now, the thing with these cork plugs, the reason they fall out like you just saw, is that over time, as the cork dries out, it shrinks a little and it doesn't stay in the canteen very well. But there it is in the lid, and there's the opening looking down into it. As you can see here, the lid on this is a little different. This one is flat. Some of them are more, I don't know what you want to say, concave or dented in, like say on this one. But I'll be real honest, I got an excellent buy on this. I found it. For those of you who say that you can't find bargains at estate sales and at flea markets and whatever, and antique shops, you can, because that's exactly where I found this. I found it in an antique store for $15. And if anybody goes online and looks up an Ethocell, these are called Ethocell or Ethocell canteens. And if you go look one of these up online, they run right around $200. So yes, you can definitely still find bargains online, or not online, but in thrift stores if you're diligent. So that's a few things to look for. Gives you a little. This is getting in a little long. A few things to look for: a good overview of U.S. canteens from World War II, and keep an eye out and see what you can find at your next store, and at the next flea market or thrift store you go to. And never know, you might find a whale of a deal that somebody doesn't know that they have. So that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.